I'm in England right now. I've just been travelling a bit. I was last week in Scotland. Both countries quite near where I used to live 10-ish and 13-ish years ago. Yeah, so it's been really nice to reconnect with these places where I spent a lot of time. Yeah, it's been really nice to be back. It's, I've been 8-ish years in Portugal now, which we went there originally for a job that was like 9 months, so we were hoping to stay a bit longer than that, but we before that lived in different places for 3 years, a year, 3.5 years. We're not expecting to. And yeah, there's been a lot that I've enjoyed about living in Portugal, but it will always be a foreign country. Even though I worked on learning the language and the culture and how to live there, and like I will always have a connection to it. Now, like my children are Portuguese, like both by like legal citizenship and by being born and having spent the first few years of their life there. They're fluent. But it's a foreign country. There's a foreignness that there's always a part of your mind like having to work to manage it, to like just that awareness that you don't necessarily know what the normal is, and that can strike you at any moment. Not that that's not the case here. Living in the UK, I didn't have that baseline sense of foreignness because Aotearoa, New Zealand was mostly settled by British people and its European colonisation, and so it's very culturally British. So like coming here wasn't a big culture shock, but you'd find along the way little things that surprised. They really take the Queen very seriously. I guess the not Queen now, the reigning monarch very seriously. It's very strange. But yeah, living in Scotland in Fife, it was the most productive time of my life thus far, and like work productivity obviously isn't everything. It's not. if you just optimize productivity, you end up losing a lot, because you don't have so much the anchor of what the productivity is for. But it's a great metric, I think, because like if your life is going well, things are being good for you, you will be productive. So like looking back on my time there, like that was the most productive time of my life. I made dozens of very good games very quickly. There's well acclaimed and stuff, and I think a lot of that is just that I was in the right environment for me. It was, art is, it's not just an abstract expression of your deep soul. It's an expression of the whole environment and setting that this particular organism happens to be working in. In a way, it's like becoming a voice for the world, the universe, through and rather than yeah, it's both, and it's philosophy, blah. Yeah, so we're not immediately, but we are strongly considering moving back, and that would be nice. I think that would be good for me. Just being in Fife last week, weight off my shoulders. I just felt like this is the place for Michael to be, and it's beautiful. It makes sense, and I feel well in alignment with other people there. Like, I'm quite used to being an outsider and contrary, but it is just I sort of expect that, right? It's normal to just randomly be in conflict with people around you a lot of the time, because you don't think the way they're doing things makes sense, and they don't think the way you're doing things makes sense. But if you're not spending energy doing that and feeling that, then you have more energy to spend on something else. And yeah, living there, that just was less the case. People would see what I do, and yeah, we didn't leave by choice, it was visa and work stuff. It's annoying that, this country where my ancestors came from, my family's on one side pretty much entirely Scottish, and the other side mostly British of variety of kinds, and Irish, and just a little bit of European. Um, and yeah, like my ancestral homeland, I'm not just allowed to go and live there. The only place that I'm legally allowed to just freely be is the place that my ancestors colonized. It's like, yeah, so with my work being weird and not like the normal kinds of things that legal authorities easily recognize as a valid occupation. It's a tricky kind of thing to get a work visa to do, and so it was great while my wife had a job here, and then academic jobs are like that. So yeah. But Portugal is not a great prospect for a permanent academic job because we're not Portuguese and we'll never be Portuguese. No matter how, like, even if we get citizenship and are completely fluent and stuff, like, there's discrimination in that sense. There's temporary jobs for foreigners, but not permanent ones. And yeah, so she's not employed right now, which is like one of the reasons things are financially quite tough. But she still has been invited to speak at 2 conferences here, which is good. But even when she's not employed, so we're staying right now on campus in a quite nice 3-bedroom house that they're just putting us up in because she's speaking at a conference, and it's been like, it has a grassy area around it, and that you can have an open door between the living room and the grass, and the kids just run in and out, and really just seeing how our lives would be easier if we could afford that as our normal life. Is that living in an apartment, a quite small apartment, you have to take them outside. You have to actively be on duty taking them outside. Like they can run around in a tiny closed space, but they're like a gas that's under pressure, that's very volatile. You need to get them on the open. And if you just have a garden, then they can just do that, and then they get their movement needs met, and it's calm, and you can like be there, like having an eye on them, but still being able to do other things, and it's just like obvious that that's how families are naturally meant to live, and that was my upbringing. Back when housing was a lot cheaper, and yeah, I would be a lot more productive in my work if we had a garden. Like, it's that simple. And yeah, just things like that. Like I kind of knew that, but just getting to stay here briefly and just seeing it in action. It's, I'm planning for my next game to just make a lot more money and then just be able to afford whatever. That's the plan. So I just, you know, the main one I'm working on right now. Not necessarily. That's not necessarily my next release because I will probably have to. I think my best bet of being able to afford to finish that is to make one or two smaller jam games and yeah, it's hard to figure out exactly how to balance attention between those, but you know, usually if I make a small game, then like anyone will buy it, and yeah, it's a tricky calculation because usually they have paid for more than the time. No, yeah, all of them have paid for more than the time that I spent to make them eventually, but they've always been slow builders, which is why it's frustrating that the app stores always just stop things working after a few years, because then like you have to evaluate, like, this has been out for 10 years, is it's still selling one or two a week, like it doesn't necessarily seem worth spending a few days fixing it up so it works again, but over the next several years it might be. And I don't know. I've mostly maintained my stuff, and that's been a drain on my resources, and I just really don't like them not being available. But I see a lot of people just like make a clean break, just like it works for a couple of years and then it's gone, and they're working on something else, and maybe that's healthier. I don't know. Yeah, so buy my next game, make me enough money to get a house with a garden, and to like some way get a visa to move back here. Probably that's probably what I want to do. And then I'll be really productive and make a whole bunch of cool stuff. I wrote on the Patreon. I should probably cross-post it to my blog as well. Kind of trying to make an outline of all the stuff that I'm trying to work on, because there's cool stuff, and it all takes time, and more time than it used to, because I'm older and sicker and have my attention more split. But yeah, so I'm working on a roguelike right now. I won't tell you whichever ideas it connects up with, because then you'd know. So in Zaga 33, I focused on single-use items. There's a little bit of an identification game, because the first time you get them, you don't know what they do, but that wasn't particularly deep. Yeah, so Rogue had scrolls and potions, which you can use once. They had slightly different sets of effects, which is interesting. Wands, weapons and armor, rings, which give weird ongoing effects, and maybe that's it. Food, of course. Arrows for ammunition for ranged weapons. Darts also, like ranged weapons that don't need a bow. And then the later ones added things like spell books, so you can learn a magic spell as a repeatable ability. So Zaga focused on single-use items. 868 focused on building up character development with reusable abilities, which cost resources. So resource management and like spells. And then Imbroglio was like equipment. And then obviously Cinco Pouch was wands, and really digging into the identification thing by having items with multiple uses that can have some uses identified and not others. Layering up multiple uses on the same items is a really good one. I was playing Slice and Dice. I was on the Eggplant podcast for Slice and Dice. We talked a lot about 868 Hack and how I had taken the ideas of scoring streaks and modifying the game as you loop through it with just simple difficulty modifiers, but like rule-based difficulty modifiers rather than numeric increases, and how the lineage of that goes into Slice and Dice. So that podcast is cool. You can listen to it. Yeah, so I was playing Slice and Dice, and I got a randomly generated item, which was I forget what it was, but it was just two items mashed together, and it was quite cool that they're together, because if I'd had them as separate items, I would have wanted one on this hero and one on this hero, but as a unitary object, I had to make a choice. And I did that also when I re-released Saga 33 recently. I added a slightly hidden special mode that the items are instead pairs of the original effects. You can have bomb and laser, or quake and freeze, and it just makes it a lot deeper thinking about rather than just being able to use each effect in its optimal place. Having to like trade off between what's good for this one, what's good for this one, and optimize the union of that. Yeah, so obviously Cinco Pouch did that like at scale. Everything has 5 abilities, and you try and trigger some of them. Yeah, right. Yeah, so I've gone through these different subsystems that were in Rogue and early roguelikes, and focused down on them. And Imbroglio was equipment, but equipment in Rogue is kind of boring. You trade in your sword for the next sword that has a bigger plus on it, and they use the like unidentified item system, and some items are cursed. That gives it some sort of depth. Like you get a new sword, you Like, it's a bigger sword, it's probably better, but it could be cursed, it might be worse. Or your other one might have been magical and better even though it's smaller. So they add a little bit of uncertainty that you don't necessarily know what the right choice is, but you want the biggest number, and the uncertainty just comes from they didn't tell you what the numbers were, and that's a way. But it works. It works like it's a great game. It works great as a small subsystem of a game that's got a lot else going on. It's not that interesting to expand into a game on its own. So obviously, Embroglio is more inspired by broader RPG item systems than specifically Rogue and more traditional roguelikes. But that kind of thing is pretty common in roguelikes these days anyway. But yeah, most of the items have a bunch of passive and triggered effects layered up on them. And then there's this experience point leveling thing. So yeah, it's really equipment plus leveling and focusing on leveling up by having 16 different level up meters rather than just one. Anyway, the thing I'm working on right now has another take on equipment that yeah, I'm trying a different approach of making equipment deeper, is rather than just trying to get the thing that, like, even with complex rules and triggers and stuff, like it often sort of boils down to what gives me the most pluses, what combo triggers to do the most damage, or like it can be quite non-trivial to work out what that is, but it's often a bit linear. So the solution I have right now, I haven't got the exact implementation clear, but well, I have an implementation. I'm not sure if it's the one that'll make it through to the end. These things usually change quite a bit. You choose when your equipment is equipped, and the implementation right now is like a game is several levels, same as these other ones, and an item of equipment can be equipped for one level. So you choose when to have it on. You can't just work out the best combo and then have that combo running all the time. And I think that really, it's still early days, but I think this eliminates a lot of the reasons why equipment isn't that interesting, because you don't just get it and put it on and then you have these things stacking all the time. You're choosing when to activate them, and like every time you enter a level, you're surveying what you're about to face first before you make that decision. And and once you've had it on for a level, then it's off for the rest of the run, but it's streaks, you know. You accumulate items over several short runs, and then you know the drill. It's not falling that far from that tree, but yeah, so I'm working on how to have it be interesting to choose what to have on now, and not just be a matter of on level 1 you equip your weakest sword, and on level 10 you equip your strongest sword, because there's more enemies and it's harder. Like, more, how does the level layout, the particular enemies you're seeing, the particular resources that are available influence things like this sword gives you +1 damage, which is a lot. +1 is a lot in my games, remember. But if you get hit while wielding it, it's lost forever, for example. That's like something you would want on the last level, but you're more likely to lose it on the last level, so maybe you use it on one of the easier levels. Yeah, I'm not sure right now if it's... because combos are, like, interesting, right? So, at first I'm having... one at a time, because, like, you know, if you are just able to pick any combination to be on, then again you'll just like, I don't equip anything on the first few levels because they're easier, and then when I get to a harder level I equip everything, and yeah, so like this is just musing right now, but yeah, I have some items that are pretty neat. I have way more than I need, actually. There's about 50 right now, and then there's still a bunch more ideas written down which are all sound, and that's a lot more than I usually put in of a thing. But maybe that's what this game's about. Yeah, I just feel with so many things, it takes more work to, not just to like mechanically balance them, but to give them their own personality. But hey, maybe I can do it. But yeah, so I've been trying. You just have one at a time, but that doesn't give you the richness of combining them. But yeah, so I've got an item right now that it's like, if you equip this, it doesn't do anything directly, but it lets you equip 2 more, so then you can have a limited combo ability. That's anyway, yeah. So it's like that's. I'm leaning towards, with these videos, just having a more kind of idle diary kind of chat, rather than expound on a topic. Like there's still a few topics I would like to expound on, but it's hard to get right.